South of the Circle is a narrative adventure made by BAFTA award-winning development company State of Play, whose previous works include some entertaining puzzle games about folding paper, and the remarkable handmade point-and-click adventure Lumino City. South of the Circle was released on Apple Arcade in October 2020, but in August 2022 has just made it to Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch. This is a narrative game and work of interactive fiction, but one that leans far more heavily to that second title than the first, and arguably goes even further than that, into what I'd probably call a playable movie. There are things that you do with your mouse and keyboard or controller, and there are choices that you make, but I felt like these mechanics were more about involving the player in the story than they were about guiding it in any way. And I think that's important to address first, so we're all clear on what this game is. In South of the Circle, you play as Peter, an academic climate scientist who crash lands in Antarctica in the height of the Cold War. He escapes unharmed, but his pilot is injured, and without help, neither of them will make it out of this desolate snowscape. From here, the story revolves around Peter's attempts to reach and contact other research bases, but the looming threat of Soviet forces hangs heavy in the chilling air. South of the Circle tells two stories simultaneously. As you trek through the Antarctic, you'll learn about Peter's past and his time at Cambridge University. In the past, the story revolves around the pressure to complete his research into air patterns and climate science, as well as the more human aspect of his newfound relationship with a fellow academic called Clara. South of the Circle moves seamlessly between the two timelines with perfect match cuts that become a staple of the game's visuals. Each story has its own area of interest. The Antarctic is full of suspense and intrigue, while the past memories are a slower, more emotional affair that adds depth to Peter as a character with the journey that he and Clara take together. And these memories also reveal how his motivations and the people around him have led to his now perilous position. It plays out in a very interesting way, but the story is really made by some exceptional work with the acting. The game boasts a cast of experienced actors with work in TV, film and theatre. The lead played Brian May in Bohemian Rhapsody, and the most senior Cambridge professor is voiced by Qyburn from Game of Thrones. But the show is stolen by Olivia Vinnell's role as Clara that simply has fantastic energy and range. Her performance is the cornerstone of the game's emotional arcs, without which the tension wouldn't be as strong, and it's also what pulled the game through some of its moments that were perhaps a little too slow. But voice acting in games isn't purely the sound itself, it's also well implemented into the scenes. Video game voice acting quite often has problems with timing and awkward pauses, but the dialogue in South of the Circle is paced really naturally, which might be another benefit of the motion capture performances used to build the animation. I obviously played this because I thought I would enjoy it, but I was still genuinely surprised by how invested I became, and I played the full game in one 3-hour sitting after starting it on a whim. From a gameplay perspective, South of the Circle is by no means the most exciting game you'll play. Even for interactive fiction, it only has a very light dusting of interactivity. The full extent of the gameplay in South of the Circle is moving forwards, turning radio dials, and pressing QuickTime event-esque dialogue options with symbols representing the mood of the response. I don't believe that the majority of my choices had more than a surface level effect on the game, and I'm not certain about the impact of the decisions that were highlighted as important either. This is why I said before that it feels like a playable movie. There were even times when the dialogue options weren't even options, there was just one thing that would pop up on the screen. The symbol would still appear along with the button prompt, but it felt like a bit of a pointless click when the scene was just going to continue in one direction anyway. This also happens a little too much in the first 10 minutes or so, and honestly I thought the game was going to be really dull because of it, but I think that's just because at the time I had no investment in the story, and so actions like that just felt like a chore. But this lack of interactivity doesn't make a bad game. Even when I thought my choices wouldn't have a real impact, I still wanted to represent what I felt or wanted to say. It was less deciding what to do and more reacting, having a conversation with the game where the story progressed, and then it was my turn to briefly respond. I think true dialogue options would have ruined the pacing of conversations, and the mood-style choices worked really well, and the presence of a timer made these choices more instinctive. I would reply with confidence or show panic depending on the situation, And I think I have to give a lot of credit to the story that it felt important to reply correctly, even though I didn't think these choices were going to do anything. Like I said in the intro, these mechanics just involved me in the story rather than having me guide it. South of the Circle does have some choices which it absolutely recognises and works with, but it is for the most part fixed. Even though this game is a couple of years old, I am not an Apple Arcade user, and so it's only now with its release onto Steam and major consoles that I've even become aware that this existed. I was close to not even trying it, but I'm glad that I did. I am a big fan of games that feel like experiences, games that are memorable and pack a lot of impact into a short time frame, which is something that this undeniably did. If you're looking for a true game to play, then this is never going to be it. But if you like the idea of sitting back and immersing in the interactive experience of an emotional and tense Cold War drama, then there's a lot of quality here to be rewarded with.